Hello again, everyone. This is Ken Kibler, Director of Training and Client Business Support for eTruckBiz. We just hit the top of the hour and the attendee list is growing. So if everybody can sit tight for another minute before we get going with our weekly update. Thank you very much. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining us today as we go through the weekly business update, and we'll talk on some special subjects as well, too. So as always, if we have any questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jeff Walzak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. On the Road, Ken. And we have to remind you that eTruckBiz is not endorsed, sponsored, or anything by FedEx Corporation. So I think Becca's going to answer the question everybody wants to know.
I would love to. So, for those of you who may not know what eTruckBiz is, or if you're first time attending one of our webinars, or maybe you're watching it a little bit later, eTruckBiz provides business services, consulting, and software to help FedEx service providers become successful, independent business. So what we focus on is growing contractors' businesses, helping them establish stable relationships with FedEx, scaling operations to multiple locations, and then, of course, help service providers provide profitable transportation services. So today's call is going to focus on Network 2.0, of course, how it is quickly approaching. I talk to service providers every day, so I get the pleasure of just kind of knowing what's going on, the fears, the worries, anything of that sort. And a lot of what I've been hearing lately is just the fear of Network 2.0 coming. I mean, there are station changings, and for a long time, we felt as though it's not a problem or nothing that we need to really worry about just yet. However, we know this transition is real and it's now happening in many, many areas. So the margins under pressure, there's not much room for error when the numbers were already tight. We have driver turnover. This is a constant drain on not only your time, but your cost and your energy. And then the fragile footing. So numbers that were okay in calmer times now feel dangerously exposed. And you may not just be asking, are we ready for this? But something a lot harder, can we actually survive it? So you are going to need someone who's been inside. You don't want generic advice, not a webinar that really doesn't know the FedEx space. You want someone that's been inside FedEx who truly understands how the systems work, what the traps are, where the real opportunities are hiding. So built for this moment. So eTruckBiz has helped over 100 contractors navigate the pressures, pivots, and uncertainty of Network 2.0 transformation over the last 2 years. So we have been helping for 15 years now, helping the service providers. We have over 30 years of experience with inside FedEx, so we know how the system works. And like I said, we have over 100 of our clients have successfully transitioned to Network 2.0. So our business growth and support system isn't theory. It's built from the hard lessons of people who have been exactly where you are right now. We don't guess, we've done this. And something I just want to add to that really quickly is when eTruckBiz first started, we didn't have these programs set in place, and just based off of the experience, the relationships that we've built with our clients, we know exactly what it takes to make these service providers like yourself successful. So clarity changes everything. Some CSPs on the BGSS are doing better than they were before Network 2.0 hit, not just holding on and actually growing, and that is absolutely true. So you need to know your numbers, understand every cost lever and where to pull, seize the opportunity. Consolidation creates revenue upside most contractors miss, and then outpace your competitors. So change becomes your advantage when you're prepared and they're not. And that's exactly what we'll help you with. So to get more details or any information on any of the programs, I would love if you would book a session with me. You can scan that QR code and it pulls up a calendar, or you can always email me questions or maybe get with me to have a phone call. Becca at eTruck, I am here to answer any questions pertaining to that. And one more thing, guys.
There you go.
So, okay, so we are visiting. Okay, I guess, Jeff, I know that you just did this last week, going over information on Network 2.0. So, eTruckBiz, we're hitting the road. We're going to be going to Orlando.
I put
That's
that
okay.
slide in there and didn't tell you what was going to happen. So next week, we're going to take the Network 2.0 show on the road to Orlando at the Hampton Inn by the Universal. I don't know if any of you are around there, you know where that is, or if you're in Tampa, Orlando, anywhere around there and you want to go, you want to get some more questions answered, because this is the most serious thing to happen in this space. And since the new contract came out, since the ISP agreement came out, we'll be in Orlando next week, and then Atlanta, west side of Atlanta there, first part of May, and then Baltimore after that. And there'll probably be some other dates coming. If you want to know some in the future, let us know, call us, whatever. And if we can get this to go the next slide. Oh, let's look at the volume from last week. So there you go. Pickup stops, healthy move north, about 3%. That's good. And the packages follow along. That's also really good. Delivery volume, 3%. That's a good, healthy move. Still not to the trend line here where we need to get to, but at least that's a move in the right direction. That's fantastic. And productivity, that's not so fantastic. So,
Ouch, we went the wrong way. We got extra volume and we put too many trucks back on.
I don't know what it is. So, we could harp on this 116, 17 stops at peak. Somehow they get that done. But nope. Right now we have to hover under the trend line, significantly under it. Not so good. Not so good. All right. There's a little bit of news in the FedEx world. So they're coming out now and they're talking about 475 station closures that are planned by the end of 27. So the 200 or more, or about 200 have been completed, but there's more coming. There's something called a warn notice where FedEx notifies the government in certain places, and they put out a notice saying that a certain facility is going to close. That's how you find out about stuff like that. So you might want to watch that in your area. And so freight's spinning off in a little over a month here. That's a big deal as far as getting FedEx to just focus on packages instead of freight. Also, here's the thing about this now, and we've seen it. This is why we're hitting the road now. The consolidation is moving faster than most are expecting. It's actually not really moving faster than expecting. Now it's picking up pace, and now it's becoming a real thing. All right. So the question is, and we're going to be hitting the Network 2.0 topics for quite a few weeks now because it's about to happen, but is your business ready for Network 2.0? So, as most of you know, FedEx is undergoing a massive operational transformation, and we need to be honest about what it means for our businesses. It isn't theoretical, it's happening now, and we need to assess where we stand. So, let's talk about several things here. So, for those of you that don't know, Network 2.0 is FedEx's transformation strategy. They're consolidating Ground and Express into a unified, high efficiency operation. The goal is simple but powerful. Eliminate redundancy. You don't want to have 2-3 trucks in the neighborhood. You don't want to have 2-3 trucks making pickups at the same place. That'll cut costs and improve delivery density in every market they serve. So they're already seeing results. We're going to see here in a second how we know that, but there's been at least a 10% cost reduction achieved in pickup and delivery for markets where they've fully deployed the model. Everything is on the table for ISPs, contracted service areas, stops, package, station alignments, all kinds of things are up in the air right now. Like we said, this is real. This is happening now. Now, some of you will say, well, I don't know why they're doing this. Looks like shareholders think it's a good idea. Wall Street does. 62% increase in the share price over the last 6 months. As strong as it gets, folks. I mean, unless you're NVIDIA or something like that. In the transportation space, this is as strong as it gets. Let's talk about 5 signs that your business might be ready for the transformation, right? Do you already know your numbers? Not go looking them up, but do you already know what you spend to put a truck on the road? Do you know that? Do you know what it costs you to perform a stop? Do you know what kind of margins you're running? If you don't know those things, we need to figure it out real quick, because this isn't just figure out how to get the packages delivered. This is big league business. So does your roster have depth? Do you have somebody quits today? Do you have somebody's name ready to go to absorb volume spike, somebody quitting, whatever? If you're ready to go as far as recruiting goes, good. You're ready for action. Is your fleet fit? Do you have trucks? Yes, Jeff, we have trucks. Well, are they the right trucks? Do we have the right trucks doing the right things? Is our technology up and running? Do you have your route optimization and easy route? Is that already active and not something you're going to do as soon as the volume hits or next week, or you're going to do this? Are you ready? Have your folks already started using easy route, and can they go ahead and get it done using that? Because what we're seeing, the folks that use the up-to-date technology are crushing it. They're doing fine. And most importantly, do you have a financial cushion in place? Do you have 60 to 90 days of cash reserves to go through this whole thing? If you can honestly say that you have all 5 of these things in place, good. That's good. You're ready to go. Now, there's 5 signs that you're not ready. If you're unsure about what your profit margins are. So we need to know this because this is how we're going to measure if we're handling 2.0 effectively or not. Yes, there's service. That's what FedEx cares about. They care about service. You have to care about service, but you also have to care about what it's costing you to provide them service. And can we make a buck on this? This is probably the biggest thing that blindsides folks. Is the other thing we already said, do you not have any drivers backed up? If somebody quits today, do you have to jump in the truck? Do you or a BC have to jump in the truck? I'm sorry, that's not a good plan. You have to have, you're going to go through some drivers. So Ken and Bob, if you're on here.
Absolutely. There's just drivers that do not want to mess with 1030 commitments. They think straight line delivery is the best way to go. I get paid by the stop. I got to do the most stops possible. I'm not going to deliver those 1030s because that's going to make me do 25 less stops.
Does that hurt the folks that are trying to pay by the stop and package for their drivers? So what I mean is, do they do less stops per dispatch?
Absolutely. It's a huge impact if you're doing less stops per dispatch.
Well, the drivers wouldn't be happy because they're getting less stops, right? We'll talk about something here in a second. It was very interesting. So anyway, do you have drivers backed up? If you don't, we got to get them backed up immediately. Fleet constraints, we talked about having the right trucks. Fleet means delivery vans. Do you have delivery vans ready to go? Not rentals. Are you running a fleet of rentals? Rentals are not delivery vans. Yes, Jeff. So are you using old or no software or old software? You need to make sure everybody's up to date on Easy Route. That's the new thing from eTruckBiz that has the AI enhanced or an AI powered route optimization package in it. The AI is very powerful in there. What we're hearing from folks is this new optimization package that's in there is probably the best thing out there on the market as far as optimization goes. You need to get your hands on it if you don't already. Have you reconsidered your engineering plan? So is my engineering plan, I'll just put 10 extra AVPs out there. Is that going to get it done?
Not a cost-effective plan.
And that's the first thing somebody said was, well, you can do Network 2.0. All you got to do is put a bunch of AVPs out there and everything will be fine. Okay, AVPs managed correctly may be kind of okay, but what are you doing when you're taking stops off of regular delivery vans to put on an AVP? So if you dispatch an AVP with 20 stops on it, what does that mean?
You are diluting your stops per dispatch.
Well, that means that dispatch is probably not going to make any money. You're right, Ken. You're taking those stops off of your other trucks, which you're taking the profitable part of those dispatches off, right? AVPs are not the answer. AVPs are an emergency move, or maybe one of them because something's going on or whatever it is. Okay. But the answer is not, please listen. The answer is not putting a fleet of AVPs out there. you will go bankrupt quickly doing that. Okay. So if two or more of these apply to your operation, consolidation of risk is elevated. Act before the transition reaches your market. It's time to put some of these, if you haven't even thought about these things, it's time. Now is the time. All right. Okay. Here's another
Hey, Jeff.
thing.
Hey,
Yes.
real quick too, you can't keep just throwing money at it because there's no money left. There's not going to be any money left. Now, working with a contractor that's pays, gives a stop bonus, which, doesn't always work or very rarely works. I mean, it can work, but it doesn't work. He took over a business and they were paying a stop threshold. They had a stop threshold, and after that, they're giving $2 a stop. You're giving away all your profits. You can't do that. Right size it in the first place. Make sure you got the right size vans, the right type of van. Whatever UPS is running, run that van in that area. They're not going to run something that's not safe. And they're not going to run something that you have to get out the driver's side door, walk around the van, in and out, get the step vans. That's the most productive van out there. Otherwise, you wouldn't see any out there. The uniform companies, the UPS, the bread companies, they all got them. They don't got them just by coincidence. They got them because they're most productive. Get right-sized, get your engineering done. AVPs, if you're going to figure out your $4, it's got to be low. If you're going to use it, you've got to be, like, it's weighs your revenue is 10%, but it's got to be in your favor, not in the driver's. If you do have them, make it a stepping stone to get to be a driver. No one does that. I don't know why. Why not have 2 or 3 out there, but use it as a stepping stone to get people to get used to figuring out how the scanner works, get their ride scores, this, that, and the other, work that all up and use it as a part-time position to get into a driving position. Nobody does it, but that's all I got.
That's a good point, Bob. What we've seen from the last 2 years of folks that have already integrated, they try to do all kinds of things to make service, right? And that's not any different than we've done for the last 30 years. I mean, it's about making service. The problem is there's no room for, I'm going to say error, but the margins are not there to experiment with a bunch of things that don't work, right? Now, there are people that re-engineer the areas, make sure they're watching what's going on in the trucks, make sure the job gets done. We've actually got folks that are doing better now than they did before 2.0 integration. They had their act together before they got started anyway. And you can do better. Your margins can increase. We have folks that have done that. But if you're worried about the financial footing you're currently on, that's some bad news for you. Unless we really take a real hard look at the operation quickly, it's going to hurt bad on the financial side of the house, right? We already talked about cost per stop. Do you know what it costs you to perform a stop? Do you know what it costs you to put a truck on the road? Really know. Not, well, it's about this much. No, it can't be about this much. You heard football is a game of inches. This is a game of pennies, game of cents. Can we win or lose based on a 5, 10 cent, whatever it is, margin per package, 50-cent margin per stop? How much is your driver labor as a percent of the revenue that they produce? Think about what I just said there. How much are you paying somebody as a percent of what you're paying or what you're generating and that truck is generating in revenue? That's the game, folks. Do we know that? I think there's a better understanding now than there used to be for sure, especially amongst our folks. No question about that. But we got to know, we got to look, we got to watch, right? We got to know where that's at. In fact, the daily dispatch yield report tells us that, every single day and every single driver, how we did. We got to watch our net profit margins, of course, 10%. Anything more than 10% is healthy in this space. We've got folks that do better than that, way better than that too. If we're squeaking along at 5% or under, that's the bad zone. And we got to put some cash aside or have some access to some cash, because when we make this transition, we will spend money that we didn't spend before. Okay, gonna get past that one. Okay, this is kind of, we said this already, but if your stop count jumped 20% next month, so kind of think of it this way, if peak all of a sudden happened to you, what would be the first thing that would break? So if you ask yourself, what would be the first thing to break? All your trucks are broken now. You don't have enough trucks. Well, there's our problem. Am I going to get people quit? Well, there's a problem. Whatever it is that you think would go bad first, that's the thing to start working on first, right? And no, it's not FedEx's preload. So we have to control the things we can control. We can't control the preload. If we think that that's the root cause of all of our, yeah, it's a cause of problems. We're not questioning it, but it's not like we didn't know. We know that there's going to be preload issues. As always, we want to keep our eye on the data, right? So we harped on this cost per stop. That's there. Watch your station volume trends. We watch that every week on this weekly business update. We want to watch the volume trends, because that pretty much tells us where things are going to go and be ready for. Turnover. By the way, those of you that didn't know, you want to try to aim for 30% or less annualized driver turnover. I know some people are saying, boy, I'd kill to get 50%. Yeah, I know that. Depends on where you're at. Depends on leadership. Depends on a lot of things. But we need to watch that turnover rate, especially right now. If we're turning them over now, before 2.0, I can guarantee you, when you get there, you're going to turn the hell out of them over. Right. So again, we're going to be in Orlando next week, Atlanta the week after, and then Baltimore, I think that is. The week after that. Are there any questions, comments out there, Ken? Okay, I'll read it.
Yep. So it
There you
says,
go.
if you were to use AVPs, where, how, and when would you use them? So that's kind of a loaded question. It's going to vary. It's going to be very specific to the CSA. You just have to make sure that if you're taking stops off of a regular van, that you put stops back on a regular van. If you're taking all the 1030s off, what do I have to do? I got to give that truck X number more stops. And what do I have to do with the AVP? I've got to give them stops other than the time definite stops as well. We've seen AVPs go out and do 100 stops so they can do it. And once again, you want to make sure you're covering your fixed costs. We have some customers that pay up to $40 a day in fuel. Well, guess what I have to do? If I only give them 20 stops, that's going to cost me $2 per stop in fuel. If I give them 40 stops, I'm down to $1. If I give them 60 stops, you can do the math there. So that's why you just want to maintain the stops per dispatch, and the Network 2.0 packets are very clear about what your expected stops per dispatch are. Okay. Now we got a note on 430 at 330.
Yeah, I think there's some other stuff out there that has 330 on it. 330. What's a half hour amongst friends?
Yeah. All righty. Then we got another question. Driver labor percentage. What is a good target as a percentage of revenue? Do you include payroll taxes in this number, workers' comp, insurance, manager, or is it straight driver wages? Do you want that one, Miss Carey?
Okay, sorry. Wasn't expecting that.
I'm sorry.
Say it again.
It says driver labor. There you go.
Okay. Driver labor percentage. What is a good target as a percent of revenue? That depends on the contract and the area. It is hard to make a blanket statement on that. Do you include payroll taxes in the numbers? What numbers are you referring to as far as that's concerned? Worker comp, insurance, manager pay, or is it straight driver wages? It is wages and taxes for the drivers. Manager pay should not be included. It's an administrative expense. A workers' comp insurance.
Well, the thing to do is, if you really want to know where your operation should be, we can do a standard budget and an expense plan for you. as a freebie. If you contact Becca and set up an appointment with her, we'll create a standard budget, which is what FedEx, based on the characteristics of your CSA, we can tell you what FedEx thinks your labor as a percent of revenue should be, right? And then we can adjust that a little bit based on some more of your input. But then we can come up with a number. And Carrie's right. They're all, every area is different based on a lot of things. Miles driven, labor market, all kinds of different things. So that would be the best thing to do if you really wanted to know what yours should be.
Right, specific to you.
Can or Ken, again.
Follow-up question on the time. I meant till about when. I think it has to do with the April date down in Orlando. Then profitability percentage, does this include owner salary? You have an owner's benefit.
Yeah, no, the answer is no. So, yeah, okay, sorry.
Well, if you're taking a regular salary, then it's a management expense, but it is included in the bottom line.
Yeah, what Carrie said. Oh, you meant till when? How long will it depends. The presentation will be after the Impact Solutions class is over with, and then at the end of that class, we do this presentation. They'll last a couple hours. Just depends on how much questions and who wants to, we'll stay there as long as you want as far as answering questions. But it's really the folks that have come to these sessions are very, of course you have questions. If it hasn't happened to you yet, you want to know how it's going to go. Here's the thing. We know because we've been through it with hundreds of folks already. Is there anything else out there, Ken, am I missing?
Another question. A lot of contracts got absorbed by 2.0. Do you have any sort of checklist for those moving or of the FedEx space and closing an entity, or do you have a recommendation to entities that should be reached out to make sure nothing important is missed in the transition?
I don't think I understand that.
I'm not exactly sure what's being asked there. It sounds like if they're being absorbed and you lose your CSA, or if the CSA changes, because we did talk about one example last week where we did have a customer lose one of their 2 CSAs that was absorbed.
Hey, real quick too, I think maybe a little bit what he's asking, like working with one client now, and he moved, his whole CSA moved. And right now, we talked a little about it last week. We're working on engineering plans for the new area, and he started ride-alongs. He's going to ride every route just to get familiar with it and the pickups. So, that's one way you can, John, stay ahead of the game if that's what's happening. If maybe your area is growing, maybe get out in that area. You want to look at what type of area is it, mostly residential, business, what type of pickups you're going to have, what their anchors look like, or draw some new anchors, get ready for it in the sandbox. But that will definitely help you for sure. Get out into that area and figure out what's out there.
Mike's not working. Yes, the CSA is a single entity operation that has been dissolved, so we will not longer be contracting. So I don't think we really have any kind of a checklist for that.
But what we can tell you, and I don't know if that's what you're asking, usually they offer you something else, but I don't know that they did or not in this case.
Offer you something else or a cash payout, as they did with the customer from last week, correct, Carrie?
That is correct.
Anything else out there, Ken?
Yeah, I don't know what else we can answer.
Wait, there's one more.
All right.
Wait.
I've seen cash payout, and then there is an opportunity for DCA contracts as well.
Just depends. I'm sure that's very specialized and localized.
Excellent questions, though. So it doesn't look like we got any other questions or comments. Said we'll be addressing the Network 2.0 issues over the next couple of weeks, correct, Jeff?
Yes, sir. That's it's happening now, folks. Here we go.
So encourage everybody to be here. Please continue to ask questions because it's different in every market, but the contracts are very confusing, different data points. we're here to help. And it is a service we provide. So,
You know what, Ken? I do want to say something about that. And we've seen this over and over again. Folks, please, when you get offered a CSA optimization contract or a CSA, an optimized network 2.0 negotiation, I'm telling you, don't do that by yourself. Seen it over and over again where those contracts are. Please don't do those yourself.
They're very confusing. There's different data points. Carrie definitely brings some clarity to it. You also get a line by line itemized budget that's going to tell you what you have to do to operate successfully with that new CSA definition and with the new settlements. So definitely encourage you to help. Is the compensation of the new 2.0 contract more favorable than the existing contracts? I would say in most cases, yes, but yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
I was going to say that in a blanket statement, yes, but you must also be aware 95% of the definitions are changing, and you may not be aware of any of the unique characteristics and so forth with this new definition. So, some research and things are going to be needed, and the submission of unique characteristics is very important in this exercise also. I just went through that with a customer that they did not submit them because of the definition change. And when we worked through the analysis and so forth, we were able to help him with that, and FedEx allowed him to resubmit or to submit. And lo and behold, new offers were made to him. So again, for contractors that don't think FedEx looks at the unique characteristics, they do. And it's even more important to do research on the new definition that you are given with this 2.0 transition.
Yeah, can't stress that enough. As
a
Jeff said earlier,
taking
you got to know your numbers.
Yeah, taking a meso is not the answer, folks.
Nope.
No way.
Nope.
It never was, but it especially is not with the 2.0 negotiation.
And you got to know your numbers. What was my cost per dispatch before? What was my revenue per dispatch? What will it be under this model? So, and even a month afterwards, is your actual cost per dispatch and your actual revenue per dispatch, is it lining up with what was budgeted? All things you got to know your numbers. So, excellent questions today. As said, we're going to be back here the next couple of weeks covering more topics, and we're hitting the road. So, love to see some people in these locations. And if we don't talk to you before next Tuesday, please have a safe and profitable week. Thank you very much.